So this tutorial is not going to be the most exciting, but it is necessary that you understand these concepts. So we're going to be talking about panels and windows today, and it's going to save you a lot of time because you're often going to run into problems where something disappears and you don't know what to do and you don't know where to find something. So first off, if you accidentally X out of one of your panels, you can always find them in window. You just got to remember which one it was. The easiest way to do that is probably just Google it or look at your neighbor's screen, but you definitely are going to want to have out your. See, I forgot already what is that called that I just created? Closed content browser. There we go. The content browser down here. I forgot the name of it. The content browser is going to have all your files that are in the game, and you can find those by clicking on this little button right here. And you'll notice that, well, you probably won't have all these little there we go. You probably won't have all those little folders, but it should look like something like this. If you want to go to the main content folder, just go up to content and it'll have everything in it. And you should be able to find by searching right here what you're looking for. So for example, if I'm looking for an explosion, I just type that into this search, not this one. This is only going to look for folders. And then I can take the explosion particle system and drag it into the game, and you'll see there it goes. Now you might click off of it and be like, hey, what happened to my explosion? Where is it? Under the world outliner, you're also going to find that you can double click on things and they're alphabetical. No, they're not. Yes, they are. They're alphabetical. And you can also search by type if you're looking for like just static meshes or 3D models, or you can search by name right up here, label. And from there, you can also change the name of this if you wanted to. And anytime you double click on something, it'll take you there. I've had a lot of students accidentally do this. Let's see if I can get into the... Oh no, Mr. Janelli, what happened? I don't know where I am and I'm lost. If you click on your sky sphere, this will happen. So you just click on anything else, it takes you right back in. It actually just took me outside of my world. That's why that happened. So if I go into that explosion again, there it is. You'll also notice right here the details that there's stuff I can do with this explosion. Be careful and make sure you're not in world settings. We're not really going to mess with that right now. So let's just focus on details. In the details panel for this explosion, I have a lot of systems that I can be working with, a lot of options. Some of the ones that you are going to want to look at a lot are the collisions information on an object. So if I selected this object, you'll find that at some point there's a place that says collision. And what you mostly are going to focus on is the collision presets. Is this going to be a physics actor that moves? Is it going to block everything and just sit there like a wall? Or is it going to be no collision? Can you just walk right through it? And for now, those three are really, you know, by default, they'll mostly be where you want it already. But if you want to change that, just look under collision. Physics is important. Do you want to simulate physics or not? If you don't, it's not going to move. If you do, it's going to be movable, this object. And the actual material is you're also going to find under the details panel, and you can choose whatever material you would like to use. And then the static mesh itself, if you wanted to change the static mesh for whatever reason, you could do that here. Generally, we don't need to. Sometimes we double click on the static mesh and get into the actual settings of the static mesh, and we make changes to these like the collision and stuff. Don't worry about that right now. If you want to resize your windows, you can do so. Just put the mouse between two of the windows and you can just drag it. So you got the place actors window over here. And this is all, you know, there's a bunch of different categories. This is all your light stuff. So if you want a point light, you can pull that out. You can always just type in, hold down L and click instead. That will also get you a light. There's spotlights, which will point a single direction, like so. And they can be focused. If you go into the details panel, you can adjust things like the attenuation radius is the distance it's going to go. You can create a second cone of light. You can adjust the angle of the light, make it really focused or really soft. You can change the intensity of the light, make it much more intense, and even change the color of the light. So there are also don't mess with directional light for now. That's going to be a light that affects the whole world, and the skylight is as well. The skylight's going to fill in all the dark areas, the shadows, but we're not going to get into lighting right now. Don't worry about cinematic. We will be doing some visual effects stuff, but don't worry about that right now. Geometry, we're going to be doing some stuff with that as well later, but again, don't worry about it. And then volumes are anything that takes up a big area, takes up space. A blocking volume would not allow me to move past that section in the game. It would be an invisible wall, essentially. I don't know where I put it, but something around here. And oh yeah, there it is. Can't move. And then there's a lot of other, stuff that you don't really need to understand right now. All classes is going to give you everything, and you can just do a search. So if you know you're looking for, example, cube, you can just search for cube, and there she is. And again, if you ever close anything, like, oops, I closed place actors, just go to Window and go into place actors, and it'll pop right up. If it pops up somewhere you don't want it, like over here or over here, you can always, if you click right on the words, you can always drag them and it'll snap to another section, and then you can resize them. If you're interested in kind of playing with these things, it's kind of nice to, sometimes you want to see your FPS, to see your frames per second. You want that to be above 60 as much as possible. Sometimes if you put a bunch of stuff in the scene, it might start to get kind of choppy. You can change your view, and this is something the students accidentally do sometimes. If you go to top view, you can kind of look at your world top down. And I don't know why. Oh, I have wireframe right now. There we go. So if you want to like look at your world like a map, you can do a top view. And then you might want to see what it looks like in wireframe mode. Don't ask why right now, but there's times when you do. Unlit is going to just make this game look like a early 90s 3D game. And that can be helpful sometimes if you're working in really dark areas and it's just really hard to see what you're working on. And then there's just showing the detailed lighting. So you can see like what the computer is going to be processing the most. It can kind of be helpful if you're finding some areas are kind of choppy. It shows you where the lighting is happening and kind of just shows you the basic geometry of your scene. Most of these you don't really have to worry about. There is a couple that are helpful later on, like buffer visualization of like the well, I'm not seeing it right now. Some of these will help you just see what is causing your computer to, oh, light complexity under optimization. There we go. These are going to be helpful for saying, oh man, I got a lot of purple over here. That's not good. That means that it's a little bit complicated. There's a lot of lights near each other. As I throw a lot of lights around, white means, nope, that's too much. You can see they're a little X'd out. So green is good, blue is good. But as you start to put too many lights, it's going to tell you, that's not going to work for us. And it's going to cause your game to really slow down. And then under optimization, you can also look at the light map density. It's similar what it's saying, but any reds, it's a lot of complicated lights bouncing off one thing. You can look at shader complexity. Right now, there's not any issues with shaders. That would be your textures and materials. And quad view, I have no idea why that would be useful. I'm sure it is, but I don't know enough about Unreal. So everything's in the blue, so I'm in good shape, I guess. Okay, so that's just a better understanding of like what everything is doing. Up here at the top, you have your save. Source control is something we're not going to worry about right now. I'll not even talk about it. There's different modes. You can go into landscape mode. We know what that does. Let me go back to lit, and we know that there are some options down here underneath it. There is also going to be foliage, which allows us to place plants and trees. We're not going to do that yet. Brush editing, we're not going to get into that yet. And then mesh painting, we're not going to get into that either. Blueprints are your code, visual code. We're not going to get into that yet. We definitely will. Don't worry about cinematics. We're not doing that at all this year. Build is that button you push occasionally. If it says right here, a bunch of unbuilt objects and your level looks gross and it's choppy, that will definitely help things out. Don't push that too often because it will go it takes a long time, but occasionally you want to do that, maybe once a day, once a week at least. When you hit play, you can do just a normal selected viewport. If you'd prefer to see what the game looks like as a standalone game, you can do so. I think I need to save it first, so it's probably going to take a long time. And that will actually launch the game as if it was a finished game, and you could go full screen with it. And it's, for now, it's not really going to be any different, but there are times when that's going to be very helpful to have. If you're playing the game, you can hit escape to get out. Under a standalone game, you have to Alt F4 out. Simulate is cool. It causes the game to start, but you don't have to be your player. You can just watch. So it's kind of like spectator mode. And if you can interact with objects still, so like if I'm in the middle of playing right now, but if I lift this up the air, it's got physics on it, so it's still going to do its thing. But I can throw things around and interact with them as the game is occurring. So there are times when that's really useful. And if you just want to play God and mess around with things, then you can. And don't worry, this is just temporary. You can stop this and everything goes back to normal. While you're doing that, if I hit possess, I can actually become an object. Now I'm the player. And if I want to eject, I could. But the player is still playing. This is fun with multiplayer. You can kind of get in there and experiment with stuff. And yeah. And then other than that, launch would like actually start the game. Don't push that button for now. And there are some settings that are right here. Again, you don't really need to worry about that. If you're finding it's really, really slow and choppy, you want to kind of maybe just think it's your computer, you could come in here and change the engine scalability settings to something lower, like low or medium. And that's going to definitely speed things up. It's not going to look as good, as you can see, but it's definitely going to cause things to go faster. The higher that you go with that scalability, like cinematic, the better things are going to look, but it is going to cost more, which means a lower frame rate. And then under settings as well, you can change the material quality to be very low. Or if you wanted to, let's go cinematic here. Let's go to our settings here and change the material quality to low. And then let's change the material quality to high, and let's see if we can find a difference. Well, I don't see a difference, but I'm sure I would if I built the lighting and everything. That's it. Nothing exciting today, but it's stuff you need to understand. So just get comfortable, exploring these different sections and go through the details panel with every object and just kind of see what kind of stuff they're talking about. Some of it you can ignore, but eventually you're going to want to have an understanding of this.